The scream came before the wind. It cut across the open land and made the horses jump. People in the yard froze, unsure if they had truly heard it. On the wide ranch near Red Clay Creek, nothing ever sounded like fear. But that morning, fear stood in the air like dust after gunfire. Emma Carter stood on the porch with her hands shaking. A thick cloth was tied around her shoulders, hiding what she carried beneath it. Her eyes were wide, fixed on the man walking toward her. Jacob Hale. Did not rush. He never did. He was a tall rancher with a hard face shaped by years of sun and loss. When he stopped in front of her, the yard fell silent. "Please," Emma said, her voice breaking. "Don't take the cloth off." Jacob looked at her, and for a moment something old and painful crossed his eyes. Then it was gone. He reached out anyway. People would talk about this day for years, but none of them would know how it truly began. Emma had arrived at the Hale Ranch 3 days earlier, riding alone at dusk. Her horse was tired, her dress torn at the hem, and the cloth never left her shoulders. It asked for work, any work, and Jacob had said yes without asking questions. He always needed hands, and she looked like someone running from something worse than hunger. The ranch sat far from town, surrounded by open fields and low hills. It was quiet there, too quiet for secrets to stay hidden for long. The workers noticed Emma's silence. They noticed how she avoided mirrors and water troughs. They noticed how she slept with the light on and woke from bad dreams, gripping the cloth as if it were part of her skin. Jacob noticed too, at night. He would sit alone on the porch, staring into the dark, remembering another woman who once begged him the same way. Years ago, during the war between families over land, his wife had begged him not to open a letter. He had opened it anyway. By morning, she was gone, and so was their future. Since then, Jacob believed truth was cruel but necessary. Lies, he thought, only rot the soul. On the second night, a storm rolled in. Thunder cracked the sky, and rain soaked the land. Emma ran from the bunkhouse, slipping in the mud, crying out as if chased by ghosts. Jacob found her by the barn, pressed against the wall, clutching the cloth. "They are coming," she whispered. "They always come when it rains." Jacob wrapped his coat around her and led her inside. He did not ask who they were. He only said, "You're safe here." But safety has a way of demanding payment. The next morning, a stranger rode up to the ranch gate. He was thin, sharp-eyed, and wore a town badge that had seen better days. He asked for a woman matching Emma's description, said she was wanted for theft, said she had marks that would prove it. Jacob told the man there was no such woman on his ranch. The stranger smiled like someone who did not believe in mercy. "If she's hiding something," he said, "it'll show." After the rider left, Jacob went straight to Emma. She stood where she always stood, near the porch rail, staring at the fields. When she saw his face, she knew. "It's about the cloth," she said. Double quotes, "Yes." Jacob replied. She shook her head, tears forming. "You don't understand. If you see it, you'll send me away. Everyone does." "I won't," Jacob said, though he was no longer sure. Emma stepped back. Her hands trembled as she pulled the cloth tighter. "I was born with it," she said. "They said it was a sign, said I was cursed. My father tried to hide me. My husband tried to fix me. When they couldn't, they blamed me." Jacob's jaw tightened. He had seen cruelty before. Towns that burned people for less. "Please," she said again, softer now. "Let me stay just like this." Jacob looked around the yard. The workers had stopped pretending not to watch. The land itself seemed to hold its breath. He knew that if he let the cloth stay, the rumors would grow. The badge man would return. Fear would poison the ranch slowly. He reached for the edge of the fabric. Emma closed her eyes. When the cloth fell away, gasps filled the air. What lay beneath was not what they expected. Not a wound, not a weapon, but something that told a story older than the ranch, older than the town. Something that explained why Emma ran and why she begged. Jacob's hand froze in midair. His past, his rules, his beliefs all cracked at once. And, in that moment, he realized the choice he made next would destroy her or save them both. The yard stayed silent long after the cloth touched the ground. No one moved. No one spoke. The truth sat in the open like a living thing that refused to be ignored across Emma's back. From shoulder to shoulder stretched a dark birthmark shaped like spreading wings. It was wide and uneven, reaching down her spine like something growing inside her skin. In the West, marks like that were whispered about in churches and saloons. People called them signs of the devil. Others said they were proof of witch blood. Very few saw them as harmless. Emma stood frozen, her eyes still shut, waiting for the words she had heard her whole life. Jacob was the first to breathe again. He had expected something ugly, something violent. But what he saw was only skin. Different, yes, but not evil. Not cursed. Just human. One of the ranch hands crossed himself. Another took a step back. Fear moved faster than sense. She told the truth, a man muttered. That mark brings trouble. Emma opened her eyes then. She looked at Jacob, searching his face, trying to read her fate. Her voice was steady, but it cost her everything to keep it that way. You can send me off now, she said. I won't fight it. Jacob picked up the cloth and held it in his hands. He remembered his wife's letter again, how the truth had burned him alive because he had faced it alone. He would not let that happen again. She stays, he said. The words were simple, but they hit the yard like a gunshot. Heads turned toward him in shock. She brings danger, one of the men said. That badge man will come back. Then? He'll answer to me, Jacob replied. Emma's knees nearly gave out. She grabbed the porch rail to steady herself. No one had ever chosen her once, they knew. But danger does not walk away quietly. That afternoon, whispers spread beyond the ranch. By nightfall, the nearby town knew about the woman with the mark. Fear grows faster than truth, and by morning, people were already changing the story. Some said Emma had killed her husband. Others said the mark moved when she slept. Jacob kept her close to the house. He gave her work indoors, away from curious eyes. They spoke more in those days than they had before. Emma told him about her past in pieces. Her father, a kind man who hid her under long dresses and scarves. Her marriage to a preacher who believed pain could wash sin away. The night she ran, bleeding and terrified, knowing she would rather die on the road than stay one more day. Jacob listened without interrupting. Every word carved something deep into him. One evening, as the sun dropped low, Emma stood by the window and watched the sky burn red. Why did you really let me stay? She asked. Jacob answered honestly, because I know what it feels like to be judged by one moment. That night, the dogs barked. Jacob woke to the sound and reached for his rifle. Before he could step outside, a rock smashed against the house wall. Then another. Shouts followed. Angry voices, drunk voices. Town voices. Emma appeared behind him, pale and shaking. They came, she whispered. I told you they would. Jacob opened the door and stepped onto the porch. Torches flickered. In the dark, 5 men stood at the edge of the yard. Among them was the badge man. She belongs to the town, the badge man said. We protect our own. Jacob laughed, low and bitter. No, you never protected her before. Oh, she brings fear. Another man shouted, fear brings death. Jacob raised his rifle, not aiming, but ready. You cross this fence, he said, and you make yourselves my enemy. The standoff stretched long and heavy. Then a voice broke through the tension. "I will go," Emma said. She stepped past Jacob before he could stop her. The men quieted, surprised by her calm. "I'm tired of running," she said. "If my leaving keeps blood off this land, then I'll leave." Jacob turned to her. "No," but she shook her head. "You already saved me more than anyone ever has." She walked toward the fence. Each step felt like a goodbye she was not allowed to say out loud. The badge man smiled. Victory was close enough to taste. Then a gunshot rang out. Not from Jacob's rifle, from the darkness behind the rive. CROWDA body fell. Screams followed. Chaos exploded across the yard. Emma turned, eyes wide with horror, as Jacob pulled her back toward the house. Somewhere in the confusion, the truth came crashing down. Someone wanted Emma gone, and they were willing to kill to make it happen. The night broke apart in seconds. Men shouted and ran in all directions. Horses screamed as they pulled against their ropes. The torches fell, fires spreading across the dry grass near the fence. Jacob dragged Emma inside the house and slammed the door shut. He pushed a heavy table against it as another shot echoed through the dark. Wood splintered somewhere outside. Emma's hands shook as she pressed them to her mouth. "This is my fault," she said. "It always is." Jacob checked. His rifle, calm on the outside, burning on the inside. "No," he said. "This is about fear. And fear makes cowards cruel." Another gunshot cracked, closer this time. A bullet tore through the window frame. Glass scattered across the floor. Emma cried out as Jacob pulled her down behind the kitchen counter. Outside, the shouting changed. The townmen were no longer brave. They were confused. Someone among them had fired without warning, and now no one trusted anyone else. Who did it? One man yelled, "I didn't fire!" Another shouted back. The badge man cursed, his voice sharp with panic. "Find the shooter." But the shooter was already gone. The ranch dogs began barking wildly toward the far trees. A shadow moved, then disappeared into the hills. Silence slowly returned, broken only by the crackle of fire dying in the grass. Jacob waited a long moment before standing. He opened the door carefully and stepped onto the porch. The yard was empty. One man lay wounded near the fence, alive but bleeding. The rest had fled by morning. The truth spread faster than the lies ever had. The wounded man told the story. Between gasps, the shot had come from behind them. From the hills. Not from the ranch. People began to ask questions. About the badge man. About the preacher Emma once married. About who really wanted her silenced. 2 days later, the badge man was gone. Rode out before sunrise. No one saw him leave. The ranch grew quiet again, but it was a different quiet now, heavier. Honest Emma helped clean the broken glass from the floor. Her hands were steady, but her eyes carried something new. Hope mixed with fear. "I should still leave," she said softly. "Danger follows me." Jacob shook his head. "Danger followed me long before you arrived." He paused, then spoke. Words he had not planned to say. "This land tried to take everything from me once. I won't let it do that again." Emma looked at him then, really looked at him. Not as a protector, not as a rancher, but as a man who had chosen her when it mattered most. Days turned into weeks. No one came for her again. The ranch hands slowly stopped whispering. One by one, they spoke to Emma like she belonged, because she did. One evening, as the sun sank low over the fields, Emma stood on the porch without the cloth. The wind touched her back freely for the first time in her life. She smiled. Jacob stood beside her, watching the land breathe under the fading light. He did not reach for her. He did not rush the moment. Some truths take time to heal, but on that quiet ranch, under an open sky, Emma was no longer hiding, and Jacob had finally learned that love is not about uncovering the truth, it is about standing beside it when the world turns cruel. The West never spoke her name again in fear, only in respect.